everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be sharing all the books that I am planning to read in April. If you haven't watched any of my TBR videos before, I'll leave a link to the playlist down below for you to check out. But basically this is my monthly TBR game that I use to pick books to read, and it's very loosely based on the game Cluedo, or loosely inspired by the game Cluedo is what I like to say. I basically pick 5 books every month based on a genre and a prompt. It's really easy to follow, so don't worry if you haven't seen any of these videos before. Last month I actually added 6 books to my TBR because I had to take a punishment, and I'm happy to say that I think I'm going to finish them all. I've got 1 book left that I have started, and I think I've got just over half of it left, so I should finish it in time. I'm filming this a little early. There's about 5 days to go until the end of the month, so I should finish it in time. So yeah, I won't be taking a punishment this month, but there are a few other books that I want to get round to outside of my Cluedo TBR, so I will cover those at the end. And I guess without further rambling, let's pick the first prompt. Okay, so here we go with roll number 1, which is a 6, which is romance. And the prompt is a short book. So for my first roll, I need to pick a short romance book. And for this, I've decided to go for The Bride Test by Helen Huang, which is, I believe, around 320 pages. So I'm pretty sure that that counts as a short book. This is a companion novel to The Kiss Quotient, which is one of my favourite romance books. I read it last year, and it's one of the steamiest romance books that I think I've ever read, but I really enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure that I read it in one sitting. From what I understand, The Bride Test follows Kai, who is a character that was mentioned in The Kiss Quotient. So Kai is Michael's cousin. Michael was the main male character, like the love interest in The Kiss Quotient. And Kai is autistic, and he actively avoids relationships, like romantic relationships. But his mum decides to take things into her own hands, and she travels to Vietnam to find him a wife. And the woman that she chooses for him is called Esme, or Esme. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce that, but she brings Esme back to America, and it's all about Esme trying to seduce Kai. And I'm assuming that because this is a romance, they actually end up falling for each other, like genuinely. Like I said, I really enjoyed The Kiss Quotient, and I'm pretty sure that there's another book in this series that's coming now later this year. I think it was meant to come out last year, but it was pushed back. So I really want to try and catch up before then. Okay, so roll number 2 is a 3, which is my choice. And the prompt is recently bought. So my next roll gave me my choice, which means I can pick any genre, and the prompt to go with it was recently bought. So the book I've decided to go for is Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the sequel to From Blood and Ash, which was probably my favourite book that I read in March, and I have been dying to pick up this next book because of the way that the last book ended. I need to know what's going to happen next. For anyone who doesn't know, this is a fantasy romance series that follows a girl called Poppy, who is something called a maiden, which means that she's not allowed to be touched and she's not allowed to experience any kind of pleasure. No one's allowed to even look at her, and she is waiting for her ascension, but she's starting to rebel against the constraints that have been placed on her because her life has never really been her own. And then she's assigned a new guard called Hawk, and the story kind of goes from there. It's really hard to talk about this book without, or this series without spoilers. One of my main criticisms for From Blood and Ash was that I found it very predictable, but I think the reason that I found it predictable was because I'd seen so many reviews beforehand, and actually some of the reviews that I saw didn't have outright spoilers, but it was quite easy once I knew enough about this book, or the first book. It was quite easy to work out what was going on. I did actually see one major spoiler on Twitter, which I'm still really annoyed at. But yeah, so far I have managed to avoid all spoilers for this second book, and I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna love it. Like I'm gonna say it. Like I think this is gonna be 5 stars. Like it's definitely a 5-star prediction. I can't see me not liking this. Roll number 3 is 6, which is romance. And the prompt is a new release. As you will have seen, for my next roll I got romance, and the prompt to go with it was to read a new release. And so for this I've decided to go for The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary, which I have an arc of this through NetGalley. It comes out I think at the end of April, so I need to read and review it before then. Beth O'Leary is the same author that wrote The Flatshare and The Switch, which I've read both of her books and really enjoyed them. I believe this follows a main character called Addie, who is going on a road trip with her sister to attend a wedding in Scotland, and not long after they set off, another car goes into the back of them, and it turns out that it's Addie's ex-boyfriend Dylan, who she hasn't really seen or spoken to since they broke up 2 years ago. But Dylan and his friend are also going to this wedding, and because their car is now out of action, Addie has no choice but to give them a lift and share the journey. Really excited for this one. Like I think I said, I've read both of Beth O'Leary's other books and really enjoyed them. I think I gave them both 4 stars, or did I give one of them 5 stars? I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to enjoy this too. It sounds very light-hearted and funny, and I don't think I've read any second chance romance books. I know that that's a trope that you sometimes see in romance books, so interested to see what I think of it. Okay, so roll number 4 is a 3, which is my choice again. And the prompt is a dark cover. My next roll gave me my choice, and the prompt to go with it was to read a book with a dark cover. So for this, I've decided to go for With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, which is one of my 5-star predictions. I made a video last year where I talked about some of my 5-star predictions, and I've been trying to work my way through them all. I've still got quite a few left, but this was on that list. So this follows a girl called Amoni, who's a teenage mom, and she really wants to be a chef. That is her dream. And I believe that this is about her journey, and it's about her balancing caring for her daughter while also trying to achieve her dream. I have read 2 other books by this author, but those were both written in verse, which is poetry. I actually have this on audiobook because I listened to the Poet X as an audiobook and really enjoyed it, and so I'm hoping that I will enjoy this as well in that format. Okay, so roll number 5, which is the final roll, is a 2, which is thriller, and the prompt is Twitter poll. So as you will have seen, for my final roll, I got the genre thriller, and the prompt to go with it was Twitter poll. So I made a poll on my Twitter and I asked people to vote for the book that they would like to see me read, and I picked 4 thrillers that I've been meaning to read for a really long time. And the winner was The Passengers by John Mars, which I am actually really excited for because I read The One by John Mars last year, and it's one of my favourite thrillers. I can't remember if I gave it 5 stars or 4 stars, but if I gave it 4 stars, I really should have given it 5 stars because it was amazing, and it's one of those books that has stuck around in my head and that I keep thinking about, especially because they recently turned it into a Netflix show, although I watched the first episode and it is very different to the book. So I believe The Passengers is about self-driving cars, and I believe that someone hacks into 8 separate individual self-driving cars and they broadcast it as a TV show and ask people to vote for who they want to live or die. It sounds very Black Mirror-ish, which I felt the same about The One, and I really like stuff like that, like books and TV shows that deal with morality and that are very dark and twisty. So I haven't seen many people talk about this on BookTube, but I have seen a few people mention it on Instagram, and the reviews that I've seen have been really positive. The reviews that I've seen have been from people that have also read The One and they enjoyed both. So yeah, really excited to get round to this. So those are all the books that I'm adding to my official TBR Cluedo, but there are a couple of other books that I do need to get round to in April, starting with Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo, which is the next book in the Grishaverse. I am currently reading King of Scars and really enjoying it, but I love this series. It's one of my favourite fantasy series, and so I would like to read them quite close together. I've pre-ordered Rule of Wolves from Waterstone, so it should arrive within the next few days, I want to say. But yeah, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is actually going to be the last book in the Grishaverse, so yeah, it would be nice to finish off that series. I also have an arc for The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart, which I believe has been out for a while in hardback, but it's now being released in paperback, which is why it's now available as an arc again. I have heard a few people talking about this, and I believe it's set in this world where you have bone shard magic, which I believe is where people create Frankenstein monster type creatures. I don't know if that's right. Like I said, I haven't read this book yet, but I think that I need to read and review it before the start of April. I think I've also heard that there's really good LGBTQ+ rep in this book, so I'm really excited to get around to it. Okay, so those are the 7 books that I am definitely planning to read in April. I am also planning to take part in Eurovisionathon this year, which starts in April. I think it starts towards the end of April though, and this is a readathon that's hosted by Helen from Helen's Bookhaven, so I'll leave a link to her channel and the announcement video down below if you wanted to find out more. But basically the idea behind this readathon is that you read books for each of the countries, or as many countries as you can, to represent the countries that are taking part in the Eurovision Song Contest. And then when it gets to the actual night of Eurovision, however those countries perform, like however they score, you get points based on the books that you've read for those countries. But yeah, like I said, I will leave a link to Helen's announcement video down below if you wanted to find out more, because she does a much better job of explaining it than I just did. I think I might do a separate TBR video for Eurovisionathon, because the readathon is happening over the course of a month, so there's a lot of time and there's a lot of books that I do want to try and read and get round to. So yeah, I've started putting together a list already, but one book that I know I definitely want to read is A Man Called Uwe by Fredrik Backman, because I've had this on my Kindle for I think nearly a year, and it's about time. It's about time that I finally get around to reading it. And because Fredrik Backman is a Swedish author, and I'm pretty sure that his books are set in Sweden because they were originally published in Swedish, this definitely counts for Sweden. So that's one ticked off my list already. Okay, so the only other thing I need to do is make a prediction of what book I think I'm going to rate the highest this month, because this is TBR Cluedo, and in Cluedo you make predictions about stuff. But I think the book I'm going to go for is Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which makes sense because From Blood and Ash was my favourite book that I read in March, so I don't feel like it's that much of a leap to think that this is going to be my favourite book of April, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think that does bring me to the end of the video. So thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, let me know in the comments what books you're planning to read in April, especially if you're planning to read any of the same books that I'm planning to read. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you next time. Bye. Sammy's trying to film, Bab. No. Yes, you are very distracting. No, what are you doing? No one wants to see your bum, especially me.